Hey, I'm Steve. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Kaleea, the communications manager. And how are you today?
I'm doing good. I've had a busy morning so far, but all good things. Yeah.
Busy morning. And we're both cold because we're both wearing coats in this room here. I guess
chilly.
we should turn on the heat a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
So what's
already?
It's already Christmas. It's December.
Yeah.
Now, I get in trouble if I watch NFL football in August in my house. I'm not supposed to. It's against the rules at my house to watch the NFL in August, so I have to sneak it in. And it's also against the rules to start talking about Christmas before December. But we're in December now. We can talk about Christmas.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, what's on your Christmas list?
What is on my Christmas list?
I'm not making any...
A shacket. Do you guys know what a shacket is? I learned this from...
I have no idea.
I learned this from Debbie Pierpoint. It's like a jacket that's also like a shawl or sweater. So have you seen like the long plaid...
So it's called a shacket?
Jackets. They're shackets.
Sounds like sachet.
Shacket.
Okay. All right. Okay, so that's on the top of your list?
Top of my list, yeah.
Does your husband know this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he will get them. maybe
you sound very confident about that. Did you point it out here's what I want, click here?
No, he's good about picking out coats for me. It's kind of his thing. So
okay. My first Christmas, I deviate from the podcast. Mary goes, I don't like green.
Oh.
And I bought her a green sweater. She's still 33 years later. She still brings it up.
Does she wear it?
Well, no, she never did.
What shade of green is it?
She goes, I told you I don't like green.
Oh.
This was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, speaking of Christmas, we're back on track here. I thought we would talk about misconceptions about Christmas.
Okay.
Because I think that people a lot of times have, in culture, there's a lot of myths maybe, or things we think we know about the Christmas story that aren't quite right. So I made a list here, and the first one that I wrote down is Christmas copied Saturnalia.
Whoa. Okay.
So do you know anything about Saturnalia?
Yeah, so Saturnalia is that Roman holiday where people would get together and do grotesque things like worship their gods and indulge in gluttony and have orgies with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So I had never heard of Saturnalia until I watched this TV series called The Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah, of course you have. Yeah.
Sheldon
Cooper. Yeah. So they talked. He said, "I don't celebrate Christmas because it's Saturnalia." And I went, "What is that?"
Okay.
So I started doing my own research back then on what is Saturnalia, and I think you nailed it. That. They had this, it was pretty bad stuff. And they would actually go to houses naked and singing, so people, well, that's where we got.
Naked carols.
Yeah, so that's where caroling came from. And I'm like, I don't think so. And so that's kind of out there that I think in certain thinking. But in one sense, Christmas has nothing to do with Saturnalia. And one reason that we kind of know this is because Christians started talking about Christmas before Saturnalia was a thing. So that kind of pops that bubble a little bit, right? And then they're so different in their in what they do.
The traditions.
But I think one thing that Christians are good at doing, if I could say this, is that they take cultural things and they try to redeem them for redemptive purposes, right? And so taking a certain kind of cultural holiday and infusing it with something Christian and changing it is a way to reach into the culture.
Right.
I think one example of that is the whole Halloween thing, which we talked about in a podcast. You and I don't like Halloween.
No.
But we Christians, I think, substitute a fall harvest festival and stuff like that. And trying to
something similar around the same time to
but
do
then
outreach.
Yeah, but then redeeming the purpose of it as well. Yeah. So I think that's kind of out there floating around that Saturnalia was the basis of Christmas, and that's not. When you read through the church fathers and stuff, that's not really the case at all. Another one I had listed here is they had a local Motel 6 in Bethlehem.
Whoa, crazy.
We'll leave the light on for you.
Who built it?
Yeah. So, and you've probably heard many sermons like, you evil people of Bethlehem, you didn't leave any room in your local motel for this couple who's having a baby, and you have no room in your hearts for Jesus, just like they didn't. Have you heard sermons like that?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Yeah. I try not to preach sermons like that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think it's best for all of us.
Well, what is interesting to me is that I was reading some archaeological stuff, and I don't think there are any commercial inns, hotels in Bethlehem during that time period.
Wow.
So that's one thing, right?
Yeah.
And this whole thing, there was no room for them at the inn, depending on your translation, or there was no guest room for them. I think some of the translations have switched to. And sometimes in homes in Bethlehem, they would have little additions onto the side of the house, and that's where the animals were.
Okay.
And so if your home is already overcrowded with people, the overflow was this little attached side room that also had the animals in it.
Okay, and this is where the manger was.
Right.
Okay.
The other thing that I've actually seen archaeological drawings as I dig up stuff in Israel is that a lot of the homes had, living quarters were on top, and then kind of underneath is where all the animals were. So they'd bring the animals in at night so nobody'd steal your horse or your donkey or your chickens.
Yeah.
And also it provided heat. Kind of probably didn't smell so good.
Yeah, probably not. But
And so this term in the New Testament for the guest room or the inn is that extra sleeping space inside your home.
Okay.
As well. And so what I kind of surmising after reading a bunch of information on this is that probably what happened, they go to their hometown in Bethlehem. They go to their relative's house. But since all these relatives are coming for the census, they've already run out of room.
Okay.
And so the only place for them is down with the animals.
Okay.
But it's in somebody's home. It's not out in the barn.
Okay. So they're in Bethlehem. They're looking for a place to stay. And then they're rejected by people because they don't have room in their houses until they come to a home with some space.
I'm guessing here a little bit that they went to a cousin's house.
Okay.
Speculating. Which would have been a normal custom. They show up at a relative's house. And since all the relatives are coming for this census, they're overcrowded. And so they don't have any room in a proper bedroom. But now they have room in this where all the animals are in their house, which is usually downstairs or a side room. And so it looks like to me there was no room for them in the formal guest bedroom. So we're going to put them up next to the house or where the animals are. Okay. Wherever those were kept.
Interesting.
Is that,
Yeah, that makes sense. So not a hotel.
It actually makes more sense.
It does
a little
make
bit
more sense, yeah.
And a manger, I used to think growing up, well, a manger is a barn. But a manger is a feeding trough.
Okay.
So they're usually V-shaped to put the grain in for their animals. And most of them were made out of stone.
Okay, wow.
And often, many of them they've excavated were cut out in their floors of their homes.
Wow. Because
of that basement thing. It's kind of a two-tiered home. So, and part of the basement is where the animals were, so they cut out a feeding trough for them. So that's probably where they laid Jesus.
Okay.
In a feeding trough. To me, which is worse than a barn.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah,
so
it's the thing animals are eating out of.
Yeah. So that's I think another thing. Another thing is that I wrote down number 3 is the Magi arrived the very night Jesus was born, like perfect timing.
As he was being born.
As he's being born. They probably helped out, right? Yeah. Boiling water.
Yeah.
Which I think they tell husbands to do that so they can get out of the room, like leave us alone, just you're all nervous, you're going to pass out, go boil water. So, yeah. So when do you think they showed up?
I maybe in the vicinity of his birth, like within a few days, maybe a week time.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's a year or two later.
A year or two later.
Yeah, because it says when they came to see him, they used the word teknon for child, not the word for infant. And usually that's a 2 or 3 year old.
And so when they're referring to his birth, they use the word for infant and
yes.
not teknon. Okay. Wow.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, and also kind of fits better the story because they go to Herod first, right? Mm-hmm. They say, when is this? So then Herod, when is the baby going to be born? Where will the baby be born? Where will the king of the Jews be born?
Yeah.
And then they don't go back to Herod. He wants them to. So he has all the babies under the age of 2 murdered.
Yeah.
So Jesus is probably around the age of 2 when they showed up because Herod's trying to, eliminate any threat.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So how many magi do you think there were?
1, 18, 5. I don't know. Not 3 though, just because that's not specifically stated. But
yeah, it doesn't say that in the text, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gold, frankincense. So they bring 3 gifts. So we kind of
attribute the 3 gifts to 3 people. But yeah.
Yeah. So in your do you have a nativity scene at your home?
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Because you just moved into your apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually got it, I think, over the summer from have you been to the Swahili store at 5th Street Market?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's so cool. It's like
Is that the one that used to be on Broadway?
Yeah.
Okay, I've been in it.
It's like this little straw nativity scene. It's super cute.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So do you have wise men in it?
Yeah.
So really, they probably weren't there.
There's 3 of them.
Yeah, there's 3, right?
Yeah.
Every nativity scene has 3. All of you out there, you have 3.
Yeah.
wise
Throw
men.
away your nativity scene.
No, you should buy 2. Throw away.
Don't do that. I'm kidding.
So you should buy 2 nativity scenes and put 6 wise men in it, just to mix it up.
Yeah, you're
But don't have 2 baby Jesuses.
Okay. Yeah,
That'd
would
be weird.
Yeah.
That'd be incorrect.
Heretical.
Heretical, yeah, it would be. And so they probably arrive a year or 2 later.
Okay.
Which is interesting, right? Because most people think they have this misconception that they were there that night.
Yeah.
But who was there?
The mama and
the shepherds.
And Joseph and the shepherds.
And the shepherds show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but not the magi.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like this big crowd all of a sudden.
Okay.
With magi and all their people that they bring with them, and
yeah.
But it's later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
A lot of people think that the gold they brought is probably what sustained them to fly to Egypt.
Wow.
Well, not fly, but to flee to Egypt, right? So they have all this expensive stuff, and that's really the means by which they can go to Egypt.
So you think they're in Bethlehem for 2 years and then flee to Egypt with the gold that the...
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
mine.
Yeah, that's your theory.
That's my theory.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm speculating.
Yeah.
It sounds reasonable.
Yeah. No, it does. It does.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not. We know they're not wealthy because when they dedicate Jesus at the temple 8 days later, every child is dedicated at the temple 8 days later as a gift, because you're signifying that this child is a gift from the Lord. And so they offer turtle doves. They do the bare minimum offering, which indicates they're poor.
Yeah.
So, which I think indicates, once again, that Jesus is born in very humble circumstances.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you can get more humility than
being born in a feeding tray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the worst bedroom of the house, which where all the animals are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't imagine.
All right. So my next one that I wrote down for these misconceptions of Christmas is Christians copied Greek mythology and made up the virgin birth. There was no virgin birth.
Wow.
Have you ever heard that one before?
Where's there a virgin birth in Greek mythology?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Do you want me to pull it up right here?
Yeah.
And I have to put on my glasses probably to figure that out. And which I will.
Okay.
Because I can't see my screen without it. And so the virgin birth was, I was just on the tip of my tongue too. Oh man, my screen did something funny and now I can't. So I had it right here. I'll have to look it up later.
Okay.
But it was Herodotus.
Herodotus.
Yeah, in the 5th century BC.
Okay.
So I'm just now remembering.
Yeah.
So they would write things like, wasn't the 5th century. It was the 3rd century because it's talking about Alexander the Great who died in 312 BC. And so part of the things is Alexander's father was walked into his bedroom and his wife is sleeping with a snake and the snake causes her to get pregnant. Okay, we're talking bizarre stuff here. I'm not going to go into detail, and because there's more detail I don't want to hear. And then now I remember why I didn't want to bring it up on my screen. I didn't want to bring it up on my screen.
Yeah.
And so that Alexander was born in a virgin birth kind of way. Okay. Because they all exonerated Hellenistic people, Greek-speaking and thinking people, exonerated Alexander the Great. And so they have the stories of virgin birth and stuff. So some people would say, see, Christians copied that story and brought it in, but it's
so different.
It's different, right? It's so different.
Yeah, it's so different. And it makes me think about the serpent and the Christians' understanding of the serpent and what happened in the garden. So I don't understand why we would take a story like that and try to Christify it. Yeah, that's interesting.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the stories are so different, there's no comparison.
And we have never held a serpent on any pedestal.
No.
So, yeah, that's interesting that we would derive it from that story.
Well, people are trying to say we did.
Say that we would derive it from that story.
And that's just, they're just so far different.
Yeah.
And so the virgin birth being miraculous, a lot of people say, or people who are critical of the Bible, see, that's a miracle. Miracles don't happen. Right? And it is very interesting that after the virgin birth story in Luke and Matthew, that the virgin birth is not something the apostles talked about. It doesn't come up really.
Yeah.
What really comes up is the resurrection as the big miracle.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So the text says in Luke that Mary was overshadowed. That's the only phrase used.
Okay.
Overshadowed by the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
So a miraculous birth happened right then.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the. So I reject the Greek mythology that Christians copied stuff from that. So here's my last one. The star that led the Magi. It was actually a comet.
A comet?
Well, people say that.
Oh, okay. Maybe. No.
So the problem with saying that it's a comet is that comets go and they don't stop. This star does weird stuff. It stops, it goes, and things like that.
It leads, yeah.
Yeah. So, and what happens is that scientific people or people who are really into this stuff try to figure out, hey, was there a natural alignment of the stars in about the same year that Jesus was born that would have this brilliance to it that people would see that would be unusual? And sometimes they trace it to different dates, like 30 AD, which is way past his birth, or even many, many years before he was born. One explanation that theologians pop out is that the star is actually an angel.
Okay.
And there is some, I understand how they get there, because often with Hebrew people, they had this kind of idea that the stars were pushed by angels in the skies. And there's some allusions to that in the Psalms. Wow. One thought is that the star was just simply the glory of God, the Shekinah glory of God. Yeah. So it's that word Shekinah is used when the people were led out of Egypt. And so they had the glory of God at night and the pillar of fire by day, right?
Yeah.
So and it makes a little bit sense that this is a supernatural phenomenon, not a natural phenomenon.
Yeah.
I guess that would be the point. Whether it's an angel or the glory of God, this event of the star moving is just something supernatural.
It has less to do with astronomy and more to do with God.
Yes. You said it better than I did. Thank you.
No problem.
That's perfect. Okay. So when you think about Christmas and sometimes people's misconceptions, what do you think is the primary thing that we ought to be thinking about as Christians?
Regarding people's misconceptions?
No, regarding Christmas itself.
Oh, regarding Christmas? Yeah. I mean, presenting Christmas for what it is, which is the birth of Jesus. And I think a lot of the misconceptions happen because we don't always do that well, and we leave space for doubt. So I think being explicit that this season is about Christ, it's about his coming to save humanity and his incarnation, and being vocal about that.
Yeah. And I've always found that this word incarnation throws people for a loop, which I think in simple terms means that God became a human being.
Yeah.
Right? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to Christmas. You looking forward to Christmas?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, hey, Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Grace and peace be with you, and we hope to see you in church.